And now we are finally down to our last topic in chapter 2, that is taxes, tax laws, and tax administration. So for this last discussion, we will just talk about, okay, other agencies that are tasked with, or that are tasked with the tax collection or tax incentive related functions. Okay, so yes ho, okay, the entirety of the tax system that we are currently um, that is currently being employed here in the Philippines is actually a function of the Bureau of Internal Revenue, and um, a majority of all the taxing power emanates on the Congress and is being exercised by the BIR. However, we can also not deny the fact that other agencies are also tasked with the collection of some types of taxes, which are maybe beyond the scope of the BIR, or it's really not given as a description, or it's not given as a duty to the Bureau of Internal Revenue. Primarily because these types of taxes may be different, or these talk about tax incentives and other types of tax administration or tax administrative duties that is beyond the scope of the BIR. So we have the following agencies. Okay, we have the following agencies. Number one, okay, we have the Bureau of Customs. Okay, the Bureau of Customs, or the BOC. Okay, the BOC. Now, what's the function of the BOC, ladies and gentlemen? We have mentioned a while back that one of the types of taxes can also include tariffs, okay, and customs duties, as well as VAT on importation. Take note, guys, VAT on importation is also under the purview of the National Internal Revenue Code. VAT on importation is actually within the scope of our national tax laws and our national tax code. And it is primarily supposedly under the purview of the BIR. However, since we are talking about importation, okay, importation is under the scope and under the authority of the Bureau of Customs, which is why primarily the collection of VAT on importation is lodged not on the BIR, okay, but on Bureau of Customs. Okay, Bureau of Customs. We also have the Board of Investments. Okay, Board of Investments. This board is tasked to lead the promotion of investment in the Philippines. Kapag ho sinabi nating promotion of investment, okay, promotion on investment, okay, the BOC or the BOI is tasked, okay, naatasan ho siya to induce foreign investment and boost economic activity. Okay? So yun ho ang gusto ni Board of Investments. Ang gusto ni Board of Investment is to induce, okay, to induce foreign investments from other countries or from other entities outside of the Philippines. Okay? Or even induce and attract Filipino or domestic investors themselves. Okay? Gusto nilang akitin. Okay? Gusto nilang akitin ang mga investors na ito. Why? Because, okay, the influx of investors will mean better economy. My dear ladies and gentlemen, kapag ho madami ang investors na pumapasok and mag-i-invest into businesses, into activities here in the Philippines, monetary investments here in the Philippines, tataas ho ang economic activity ng Pilipinas, and eventually, it will lead to a better economic outlook. And that is actually the prime responsibility of the Board of Investments. And one way to attract investors is to lessen taxes and to give tax incentives, which is why the Board of Investment is assigned, okay, to make or to legislate or to impose, okay, or to suggest, okay, many law or many codes or many laws that are granting tax incentives. Okay, tax incentives ho ang trabaho ni BOI or Board of Investments. Okay, I repeat, kung si BOC tasked for collection on VAT on importation, BOI on the other hand is tasked in granting tax incentives. So yung tax incentives may be in the form of income tax holiday. Okay? Income tax holiday. Minsan, it can also be in the form of preferential tax rates, specifically for micro or medium business entities. Okay? Yun ho yung trabaho ni Board of Investments. Yun ho yung trabaho ni Board of Investments. Next, we have Philippine Economic Zone Authority. Okay? Philippine Economic Zone Authority. Halos pareho lang po siya ng function with the Board of Investments. Kapag ho kasi sinabi natin economic zone, okay? Economic zone. Ito po ay investments in foreign or export-oriented industries. Export-oriented industries. So, ano ho yung function ni PEZA? Again, tax holidays. Tax incentives. Okay? Tax incentives. Tax incentives, including holidays, and then exemption from import and export taxes, local taxes. Because how are you supposed to be induced, or how are you supposed to be attracted to export something if there are taxes along your way? Dagdag cost lang yan. Okay, it will discourage exports, which is why the PEZA was created, and PEZA is tasked to promote investments into export-oriented businesses. So kapag export-oriented, malamang, okay, we want to attract investments in exports kasi nga exports are also good in the economy. Okay? Exports are also good in the economy. That is why, okay, we tend to make many exports. Okay? We want to induce exports. And for us to induce exports, again, we need to make tax incentives to attract, okay, exporters. To attract exporters. And lastly, of course, we have the power of the local government unit. Okay? Local government unit. Again, they are the ones imposing their local taxes. Sina LGU ho. Hindi ho ang national government, but the LGU imposes the local taxes. Poll tax, local business taxes, okay, real property taxes, etc. So, yun po yung mga agencies that are primarily related to tax collection or tax incentives. Collection or tax incentives. So, primarily, hindi lahat ho ng powers na ka-lodge kay BIR can also be given to others, specifically if it is on a particular function only, like kay BOC, VAT on importation, kay BOIN, PEZA, tax incentives, tax holidays, and lastly, for the collection of local taxes, it's lodged under the LGU. It's lodged under the LGU. Okay? So, yun ho ang yung mga function ng other agencies ho natin. Yun ho yung function ng other agencies natin. And our last topic for lesson 2. Actually, hindi ko na to masyadong i-discuss. Why? Because i-discuss pa to specifically, and actually yung list nito, it is found in the BIR website. So it's really sometimes disregarded for during discussions kasi nga once you pass either of these criteria, okay, you will be included, okay, as a large taxpayer. And si BIR ho yung nagde-determine nun. Si BIR na ho mismo ang nagde-determine nun for the convenience of the people. For the convenience of the people. Okay? Now, under tax administration ho, or tax administration purposes, taxpayers are classified into two main classifications for tax administration purposes. Kasi nga, sa dami ho ng taxpayers, syempre kailangan natin silang i-classify into two main divisions para at least mas streamline ho yung tax administration process. And the best way that the BIR has made it is to separate the taxpayers between a large taxpayer and a non-large taxpayer, or sige, sabihin na lang natin a small taxpayer. However, we have like anong tawag dito? we have criteria for a regular taxpayer to be called a large taxpayer. So basically, these are the two taxpayer classifications that we have. We have the large taxpayer and we have the non-large taxpayer. Large taxpayer is under the supervision of the LTS. LTS or the Large Taxpayer Service. Okay? LTS. Large Taxpayer Services. And, of course, if you are a large taxpayer, you will be subjected to different rules. Okay? Regarding withholding, for example, or regarding payment of taxes, regarding filing, etc. May mga iba-iba ho silang rules na sinusunod if you are a large taxpayer. Which is different from being a regular and non-large taxpayer. And kapag non-large taxpayer ka, it's the usual taxpayer. Okay, so kay revenue district officer ka pupunta dun sa regional revenue region ng BIR or sa revenue district mo, you pay for the taxes in a usual manner as you would if you are a regular taxpayer. Unless if you are a large taxpayer, you are under the LTS of the BIR, and where you will be subjected to different rules. Don't worry guys, later on, if may mga ma-encounter tayong mga problems in which we will deal with a large taxpayer or a regular taxpayer only. Now, there are different sets of criteria as to determine what constitutes a large taxpayer. And actually, itong mga ito guys, no need to be explained. Why? Because they are just a list in which these are criteria, these are thresholds. So, the best thing that you will need to do here is to memorize. Because after all, this only requires memory and not, this requires memory and not analytics. Kasi nga, the moment na napasa niya itong mga ito, they are automatically classified as a large taxpayer already. Okay? A large taxpayer already. So number 1, at least 200,000 per quarter for value-added tax. So ibig sabihin, nagbabayad ho siya ng 200,000 kada quarter. So from January to March, 200,000. April to June, 200,000. July to September, 200,000. October to December, 200,000. Okay, for the preceding year. Okay, so ibig sabihin nun, kapag na-breach niya yung 200,000 na quarterly requirement ng VAT, okay, it can be one criteria for becoming a large taxpayer. Again, with the other types of taxes, kapag naman ho excise tax, 1 million tax paid for the preceding year, ganun din kay income tax, percentage, documentary, and withholding taxes. Ito ho yung mga thresholds na kailangan nating sundin. Okay, kailangan nating sundin. And of course, we also have another type of threshold, which is the financial condition threshold. Ito naman ho yung also known as the asset test or the sales test, etc. Okay? Asset test or sales test. Ibig sabihin ho, tinitignan po yung mismong financial operations and financial statements ni entity. And we will see if they are qualified to become a large taxpayer. So, if you look at the pattern, guys, kung makikita nyo, lalo na dito, gross receipts or sales, makikita mong dapat 1 billion ang total annual gross sales and receipts niya. Or ang net worth niya, or ang net net worth or net equity would be 300 million at the close of the calendar or fiscal year. Gross purchases, 800 million. And top corporate taxpayer published by the SEC. So, kung mapapansin nyo, guys, based on the payment of tax criteria as presented a while back, as well as this financial condition and result of operation threshold, kung makikita nyo, the real reason why we call them large taxpayers is because they are actually large taxpayer. Kaya sila tinawag na large taxpayer kasi they have limitless ability. Kasi nga, malaki sila. Malaking entity sila and malaki yung assets nila, malaki yung sales nila, malaki yung net worth nila. That makes them literally a large taxpayer. A large taxpayer. Because they have more abilities to pay and they have larger taxes to pay because at the end of the day, their operations are huge. Which makes them qualify as a large taxpayer. So ano yung mga examples of entities that can be automatically classified as a large taxpayer? Itong mga to. Again, not analytic, only memorization. Okay? Only memorization. So, see what I mean nung sinabi ko nung unang meeting natin na tax income tax or taxation in general requires memory talaga, kasi madaming mga rules at madaming mga thresholds, madaming mga criteria na sinusunod, at marami ding mga enumerations na kailangang i-memorize, kasi nga yun ang nagpapahirap sa tax. The computation itself is not difficult because you literally have a formula to follow, and it will be easy to compute. However, the rules are very much comprehensive, which makes it difficult. So again, ito ho yung mga classifications ng large taxpayers. So if you are a branch of a taxpayer under a large taxpayer service, so kahit branch ka lang, pero yung main office mo under the LTS or classified as a large taxpayer, say for example, Save More, for example. And yung mga branches niya, they are actually considered separate tax-paying companies or separate tax-paying entities. But Save More is actually a large taxpayer under LTS because it is under SM. So yung branch ng Save More sa Tuguegarao, kahit maliit man yan, kahit hindi man siya pumasa sa mga criteria above, but it is a member or a branch of the Save More, which is under the large taxpayer system, then it will be automatically classified as a large taxpayer. Okay? Large taxpayer. Again, with pareho lang siya, subsidiaries, affiliates, or entities. Okay? Surviving company in case of a merger. Again, kapag may merger, it's just a manifestation of a larger company. So, yung surviving company, okay, of a large taxpayer, again, large taxpayer sila. Okay? And others. Ayan ho, universal, commercial, and foreign banks, publicly listed corporations, multinationals, or multinational entities. Okay, multinational entities. Lahat ho ng mga yan, they're automatically classified as large taxpayers. Large taxpayers. So, nung nag-work po ako, ang hinahandle ko po no is an offshore banking unit. Okay, which classifies actually as a foreign bank. Okay? So, offshore bank. Okay, offshore bank. Okay, isa po 'yun sa client ko noon. Yun ho yung engagement ko noong nag-work ako sa Reyes Tacandong under tax services. It is an offshore banking unit, and true enough, okay, since it is a foreign bank, it is automatically qualified and classified as a large taxpayer. Okay, large taxpayer. So ito ho yung list ng mga taxpayers that are automatically classified as large taxpayers. Of course, syempre, dapat kailangan ng notice from the Commissioner on Internal Revenue. Hindi pwedeng basta-basta mailagay na lang sila as a large taxpayer without the Commissioner of Internal Revenue notifying the companies. Okay, without the Commissioner on Internal Revenue notifying the companies. Okay, so yay! We're done with lesson 2. Okay, we're done with lesson 2 already, guys. So that is the end of the long bike ride on the fundamentals of taxation and tax laws. Okay, and how taxes are administered. So with that, we are finished with the theoretical aspects already. So on our next meeting, we will begin, okay, with the gruesome part of income taxes. Okay, with income taxes. So next week, we will talk about the Citus principles of income taxation, the different types of taxpayers according to their location, the different criteria, okay, as well as some of the rates, okay, that will be used, the graduated tax rates, etc. So, mapag-aaralan din ho natin yung mga Citus, so within or without, include or exclude, okay? Yun ho yung mga gagawin natin on our next meeting. Ayan, so again, thank you very much for tuning in this discussion for today, guys. So this will be uploaded and published as well on YouTube. Pwede siyang balik-balikan if you need to view a particular topic which you find a bit challenging for you or a bit odd for you, and if you have any questions, again and again, lagi kong sinasabi na huwag kayo mahihiyang magtanong. Please do not hesitate to approach me to ask questions. Okay, sa personal man or sa GC. I prefer sa GC para at least we can have a lengthy conversation with a healthy exchange of ideas, di ba? So yun lang. Again, thank you very much for listening, and for us to end our discussion, may we have a closing prayer. You may do your own prayer right now. Okay, guys. So with that, we end our discussion. May you all have a nice day.